Stay tuned for Airgun Detectives.
Welcome to another episode of Airgun Detectives. Today we are going to take the mystery out of the Beeman BP50. This is their Protect pistol, and we'll get into all the details of this in just a second, but do me a favor. If you hadn't already, hit that subscribe button down in the corner. It doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. Also, check out the website, www.airgundetectives.com. On that site, I've got the rec scopes back. Those are going to be, as long as the inventory is here, I'll be selling them, so they're there. We got the Generation 2 bipods. We got t-shirts. We got hats. Those of you that like to shoot the Gamma rifles with a cat or sat trigger, most of the brake barrels have those. I have a trigger screw kit for those that will turn those triggers into a match style, without a doubt. I mean, look at the feedback on them. I have hundreds of 5-star feedback on them, but check those out. Also, check out the website for some of my inventory. I'm going to be pushing a lot more inventory out there, so then I can afford to get some more stuff out to review. Because believe it or not, I'm running out of stuff. Not for the rare and unusual, but just the regular stuff. All right, let's get back to the Beeman Protect here. You guys can see it comes in this nice little case like this. What exactly is the Beeman Protect? I've been waiting since a SHOT Show to actually test this and take a look at it. This is a 50 caliber CO2 projectile launcher. It's designed as a self-defense air gun, one of the first self-defense air guns. Because if you've checked out my website, I've written an article on air guns. I don't recommend them for self-defense or standard, and I lay it out why. This is a whole different story, okay? And this is powered by one 12-gram CO2. And let's just see what you get in the package here, all right? Let's open this up. I'll get to that one in a second, but hold on. All right. So what you get is your pistol, and then you also get pepper ball, and that's the key thing for self-defense on this, is going to be the pepper ball. And then you get also some rubber ball. Now, these will also shoot, we covered the pepper ball. They'll also shoot like a paintball. They call it a marking ball, 50 caliber paintball, powder balls, and then we've got the black 50 caliber rubber balls. They make them in orange, and then these are really cool. These are aluminum balls. Yes, aluminum balls. So we're going to demo all of those. We really are. So let's talk a little bit about the gun. The only difference between these two is the colors. They give you an option. You can either have orange or yellow. And this one's topped with something. I'm going to talk about this at the end. So don't worry, I'll cover that. Anyway, what do we got here? Well, this is roughly 7.3 inches overall length. It weighs 1.35 pounds. And it's got a dropout magazine. That magazine obviously is what you're going to put your, one of those style balls in it. This has a Picatinny rail on the bottom and the top. If you want to put an aftermarket sight, I'm going to cover this in a second. And it also does have fiber optic sights. They're just fixed sights. But something like this, it's pretty much a point and aim type pistol. It really is. But this is a self-defense weapon. In other words, less than lethal. The magazine, I don't know if I covered it, they claim it's going to hold 8 rounds. The trigger is not active on this. If you happen to get one of these and you pull the trigger, nothing happens until the CO2 is discharged. And this is really clever how they set the CO2 up in here. So you see this cap on the bottom? You simply just unscrew this, right? You take a CO2, you put it in butt first, and then you screw this in. This is your piercing valve, okay? Just screw it into it snug. Now, Then you load up your magazine, put your 7-8 rounds in that, then you're set. Now you just leave this unpierced until you're ready to use it. When it goes to piercing, it's this simple. That's it. It's pierced. You just bump the bottom of that, it pierces the CO2, then you're ready to go. And then they claim you'll get about 2 magazines out of this, but realistically, all we're caring about is 1 magazine because you're going to use this thing for self-defense. Okay. On top of this, this is the brand new O-Sight. And they come, there's the S model and the X model. The S model is a little bit more compact. The X model is just a little bit larger. They come in both black and tan in each one of these. This is a multi-reticle 3MO dot and a 32 MOA circle. And then you can choose whatever sight you want. But these are revolutionary. They really are. This is the industry's first magnetic charging system. So you don't have to put batteries in this. This thing recharges like this. It's got a cover on it. It just drops on there. In fact, if you can see this, I don't know if you can. Let's see it in the green there. Yeah, you can. You can see that. It tells you where you're at. Now this cover takes a standard USB. You just charge it up. And then you can charge this from 3 times from completely dead. 3 times just by putting the cover on it. But what's really cool about this, and I was playing with this a little bit to just get a little bit familiar with it. This has motion sensor elimination. So if you would, let's say you had this on your firearm or anything, even this, and the second it notices motion, the light comes on. Now you can manually turn that off, so it's a manual on or off. But the second you motion it, and you don't have, just pick it up and it comes on. And it will stay on until it comes, until the sensor notices it's not moving for 10 minutes. So you'd have to set this thing down and then obviously or cover it up and it would shut off on its own. That's kind of a really cool feature. What else is really neat on this? This has its own auto light adjustment. In other words, if you're in the bright sun, this has a sensor on it, so it'll make sure that sight is nice and bright so you can see it. But let's say you transitions from the outside to inside with it. It will actually dim it down to make it very compatible with whatever your light source is. So if it's a darker area, it's going to dim it down so you can see this. Really, really cool, I have to tell you. So these are basically set up on the 407C and the 507C footprint. So there's a lot of firearms nowadays that this can actually go right on. This went with a Picatinny rail adapter. That's what I have on there. And then they have a little taller one, let's say if you want it for the rifle. But the sight itself can mount directly on a list of different guns. And you can check out their website to check that out. But yeah, these will go mount directly on the firearm. But I love the fact that you just throw the cover on it and that's how you charge it. Yeah, and these will hold a charge too. You're going to be able to shoot with this thing for hours upon hours without even having to charge it. And then when you're done, you want to store it or set it or put it away somewhere, you just throw that cover on it. It is so cool. But anyway, we're going to be able to demonstrate this. I've got a few little scenario things set up for you as far as accuracy, just to see what type of power we get out of it, things like that. So it's going to be kind of our usual process, but this one is a little different. Keep in mind, once again, this is an airgun designed for self-defense. And preferably, obviously, self-defense, you would use pepper ball. Now, you could use rubber ball or one of those, let's say, to deter animals, or you could shoot the marking balls or paint balls just for fun. And then especially these little aluminum balls, those are a lot of fun. But I'm going to demonstrate the different ammo and those things for you. We're just going to go out and have some fun with them. The key thing about these are extremely affordable and very solid, just solid in the hand. They feel good. But if you're one of those that are looking for some type of self-defense and you don't want to go the lethal direction, you'd rather go a little bit more the non-lethal, this might be just for you and extremely affordable. I'm I'm not sure the exact retail price on these, but it's right around that $150 mark. So it's less than 200 bucks for sure. But I think I've seen it 150, so it'll be right around there. So let's go out and test this thing. We'll run it through our little gamut here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So stay tuned for the next segment. All right, guys, let's try our Beeman Protect over the chronograph, see what type of velocity we have. Remember, this is 50 cal. We talked in the beginning about the variety of different type of ammo you can shoot through it. We're just going to shoot some orange ball, 23.15 grain. I'll tell you how it did with a couple others after, but let's just shoot 3 shots over the chrony. We'll just see how it works out. All right, shot number 1. 572. Yeah, that's a lot of, you hear it, man, this thing lets a lot of air out. You're not going to get many shots out of it because this thing is designed for protection. So self-defense here. Anyway, that was 572. 547. And one more. 564. Yeah, this thing, man, it puts out the air. You can tell that. I tell you, just the sound of this air going off, going out of this barrel is enough to scare you away. I did test it with the rubber ball. It's just the black rubber ball. And those are 23.5 grains as well. Those average, I think that was right around 520 feet per second, and we're getting that 13, 14 foot-pounds of energy. And then what was really interesting is this aluminum steel ball. It's a 44 grain ball, but it still pushed this one up right around 370 feet per second. So we're getting that 14 foot-pounds of energy. These steel balls are something else. They really are. The aluminum, they're not steel, aluminum. So we'll get that clarified. 44 grains of aluminum. Anyway, that's the velocity. Let's move on to the next segment. All right, let's test the trigger on our BP50 here, our Protect. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna be extremely heavy trigger, and it's designed that way on purpose because this gun is gonna be used for self-defense. That's what this is gonna be used for. So if you happen to be in a self-defense type situation, that's where the old fight or flight response happens. Your muscles get tired, you start sweating, your heart rate goes up. So the last thing you want is an AD. So you have to be positive that you're going to pull the trigger. And they do that by putting a heavy trigger on this. So a heavy trigger pull, that is. Let's test it out though, just to show you guys what it is. But that's exactly how this gun should be designed to be nice and safe. Okay, we got our trusty Lyman trigger gauge. Let's give this a pull. 8 pounds, 15 ounces. 8 pounds, 15 ounces. So roughly around close to that 9-pound trigger. But that, again, that's specifically designed that way because you don't want to have an AD. You want to be positive when you're pulling the trigger on this thing. And like I said, you get involved in a self-defense situation or a stressful situation where someone's trying to do you harm, your adrenaline's going to be moving. So last thing you want to have is an AD. So this is set up perfectly for that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. All right, guys, I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of accuracy here with our BP50. And I've got our O sight on here. But we shot the orange ball over the chrony, so let's just shoot the black ball now. Okay, check out our distance. I pushed this back to 11 yards. This will go farther. I figure the effective distance on this is at least 15 yards. But we're just going to shoot 11 yards. It's set up really nice for that. So anyway, go ahead, check that out real quick. You can see the target that we're shooting at. It's just a silhouette. Okay, I'm going to shoot like 5, 6 shots, whatever I feel like. I'm just going to kind of aim for center mass. We'll kind of see how well this groups. Keep in mind, this is rubber ball and it's a smooth bore, so I'm not expecting a whole lot, but I do want to hit that, hit the center mass on that silhouette. So let's give that literally, we'll give that a shot. Okay. Well, that was dead center. And that was right there too. Jeez. Wow. Whoa. This thing, I'm telling you, I've been fooling around with some orange ball and doing some other stuff. These black rubber balls, oh my God, look at the group. That's insane. That is an amazing group. Amazing group. So we shot 6 rounds, as you can see. So yeah, 15 yards, piece of cake. I mean, you're gonna be able to pinpoint this thing. And ideally, when we're shooting pepper ball, and the pepper balls, you want to kind of hit up here. So that way, when the impact of the ball, I'll show you, because I'm gonna shoot some dust balls, which are just like the pepper balls, and I'll show you guys that out. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. All right, let's test out our BP50 here. I'm going to demonstrate it a little bit. Yes, I do have our O sight on here. It just has the rails on it. I figured it'd be fun to go ahead and try that out. So what we're going to demonstrate here is I'm going to demonstrate this with powder ball via pepper ball, because I really don't want the dust blowing up in my yard and getting in my eyes and my dog's eyes and everybody else. But these pepper balls will be very similar, that you can see how the dust spreads. So we're going to demonstrate that. Okay, our suspect in this case is going to be 11 yards away. The actual lethal distance that you can legally use lethal force with someone with a bladed object is roughly 27 feet, which would be 9 yards. So we're going to go beyond that. We're going to go 11 yards. I'm going to show you what this looks like at 11 yards. But check that out. You can see who our suspect is. And let's go ahead and we'll just shoot, we'll shoot 3 or 4 shots, and just to demonstrate, okay? All right. And what we're going to try to do is aim upper chest, because that's ultimate area you want to shoot pepper ball, because the impact will blow the dust up in the assailant's facial area, and that's what you want. You want it in the eyes, you want them to breathe it in, what have you, to try to disable them. All right, so as they say, fire in the hole. You kind of see the dust puffing around there because it's a small amount, but that's all it takes with a pepper ball. But you can see how accurate we are. I mean, you can pinpoint this. Yeah, it was a little high, but you get the idea. That's where you want to impact the suspect in order to disable him. Because once again, this is a less than lethal option. It's exactly what we want for self-defense. And also to attempt to take a suspect down without using lethal force. So anyway, there's a quick demo on that. Let's move on to the next segment. All right, let's test out the BP50 just for some penetration. So I put some of the aluminum balls in here, and we're going to shoot a watermelon. And we're the same distance we shot our powder ball, what have you, roughly 11 yards. Go ahead and check that out real quick. You can see our mean-faced watermelon there. So let's just shoot like 5 rounds into the watermelon just to check the penetration. All right. Yeah, that cracked that watermelon, and it punched right through it. So it kind of gives you an idea of the foot-pounds this puts out. And we were talking about it's right around that 16 foot-pounds of energy. So this is going to do the job, I'm telling you. For self-defense, this is definitely going to do its job, especially it's a nice, less than lethal option. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. All right, let's wrap this up with our conclusion. How'd you guys think these BP50s did? I thought pretty awesome. They really are. But just like any other review, let's talk about the negatives. My only negatives on this is the magazine. They claim these will hold 8 rounds. They hold 7. The last round doesn't really stay in. It's not connected. So comfortably 7 rounds. That's about it. And the magazine can be a little finicky until you get used to it. Once you get used to it, it's a piece of cake. There's no big deal, really. That's it. But let's talk about the positives. The positives. This is a legit self-defense weapon. This is a good, less than lethal option air gun. Yeah, this is the first air gun I've ever seen that is a legitimate self-defense weapon. It really is. And you think about the power on these. It puts 14 to 16 foot-pounds of energy. You got a variety of 50 cal. I mean, you've got your your orange, the orange balls, the 50 caliber ones. You've got the black rubber balls. You've got the aluminum balls, and then you have powder balls, and then you do have the most effective, which is going to be your pepper balls, and that's kind of really the mainstream on this. But then again, you could use the rubber balls for, let's just say, an attacking dog, or a little varmint control, or some type of animal deterrent. Maybe you don't want to, you just want to scare an animal away. Well, this would give you that option to do that. The metal ball, on the other hand, that could be lethal. You guys saw what we did with the watermelon. You hit someone in the right spot with that, you could do some serious damage. So caution on that. But the metal ball is fun to, in a sense, plink with or have fun with. It certainly is. But the most effective non-lethal is the pepper ball, because when that hits, it creates that little fine powder. It can take your attackers and temporarily blind them. They can cause issues with their respiratory. Nothing permanent though. It's all just a specific deterrent. Anyway, the range on these, we like it. It's anywhere from 0 to 15 yards. Your goal always, though, is to get as much distance as you can between your potential attacker. So you could actually engage them before they got on top of you, that's for sure. But these will be effective point blank distance all the way out to 15 yards. But ideally, we want to keep our distance, because you don't want to be breathing in the pepper ball. That's going to be specifically for the assailant. So this is definitely a very effective defense tool. Real quick, let me talk about the O sight here. Amazing, fantastic. I know we covered it in the beginning a little bit, but I wanted to cover it now. Just a little reminder, fantastic sight. This thing I might have covered in the beginning. It's got a setting where if you just move it, it'll come on. So if you have this stored and then you just want to obviously use it really quick, you can bring it up and the sight comes on. It also has a self-dimming process. So if you're in the bright sun and then you go into a darker area, it'll actually dim it. So automatically, this is one incredible sight. It really is. And the self-charging system, I showed you guys that in the beginning. Just throw the cap on and it'll charge itself. It's a fantastic option. This would be great for your firearms or any of your other air guns, pellet guns, anything. This is applicable to all of them. But I love the fact that it's rechargeable and you charge it simply by just putting the cover on it. That's awesome. So overall, like I said, this is the first air gun I ever came across that I think it is a legitimate self-defense weapon. All our preliminary tests were fantastic. So as far as the self-defense, affordable, and these are very affordable, they really are. I would have to give these 5 stars. Okay, now we're going to move into just a little bit other area, and that's why I brought in retired Detective Sergeant JJ here. I worked with him for quite a few years, and I had him do some shooting with these and testing these, and we started thinking about the law enforcement application. These would be extremely beneficial for today's law enforcement. What do you say, JJ?
JC, yeah, I love these. The feel of them, there's weight behind them, there's the simplicity of their use. They're fantastic. I love these systems.
Yeah, and these remember, these are a less than lethal option. These are options. We obviously have lethal force with your firearm, but it's nice to have different options depending on what type of situation you're in. Recently, there was a shooting that we reviewed, and it involved a suspect with an edge weapon that refused to drop the weapon. He was wearing some pretty thick clothing. So in that situation, you go, well, taser's not optional at that point. Pepper spray, you're not going to get that close to them. So, and then bean bags, you had experience as well as I do. I supervise people using those. I think those are one of the most least effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I've seen them use, JC, and they're not effective. People fight their way through it. I don't ever see them dropping their weapons.
Yeah.
There's bulk to the beanbag shotgun when you're indoors.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
trying to go through a hallway or
Yeah,
something, you're
yeah.
banging into walls.
Yeah.
And then you have the option, let's say you had to drop it.
Right.
Right?
You had to transfer to
The thing
lethal,
about
of
a
course.
beanbag shotgun, it will take legitimate 12 gauge rounds. So that could be potentially a lethal weapon.
Right.
Yeah. So where these, we're talking pepper ball. So anyway, this shooting situation we talked about, I would have loved to seen one of these in action because, like I said, from a good 10 to 15 yards away, you could have pounded them in the chest with these pepper balls, and hopefully that could have caused an individual, to drop an edge weapon. We don't know for sure. And when you deploy these, especially in a law enforcement aspect, when you're trying to address a suspect, those of you who don't know, you always have to have an option of lethal force when you have the non-lethal force, just in case things go south. Correct?
That's correct. And one other thing, JC, is I don't think the video really does it justice, but when you fire these, you hear it.
Yeah.
And trust me, the assailant's going to feel it. So
Yeah.
they hear it, they feel it, it's effective. I think it's going to be very effective.
Yeah. And and then the how simple these are as far as storage goes. Guys, motor officers, they can't carry a traditional, obviously, shotgun, so their less than lethal options are very limited because of storage capacity. All the motor units could have one of these in there, right there in their bike with them.
Yeah. Bike team
ready to
officers.
go.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, the bike team officers, which I did for years, you just keep one of these in their packs, but it's just one more option that could be probably really effective, and it's cost effective. These are very, very affordable. They could afford to be able to spread these out more so. Now, pepper balls, usually, I know in our department, the SWAT team carried the big traditional pepper balls, and they would use those more in like a mob and riot control.
Mm-hmm.
But these could be done specifically for individuals. I definitely think it would be a great option. But as we were testing it, we were talking back and forth about we think this would be very, very effective. So hopefully, maybe in the future, as you said, this could be the next generation of less than lethal.
I believe it is. I
Yeah.
mean, the simplicity of its use,
Yeah.
the mobility of it, the feel of it,
Yeah.
I think it's the next generation of less lethal. It's much more effective than the beanbag, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And again, easy to use, and they're actually really fun to shoot. They really are. They're fun to shoot, and I tell you, the thing that surprised me the most is how much air comes out.
Oh,
from them.
yeah.
They're loud.
Absolutely.
They're loud.
You hear it.
That alone, just the sound coming out, is a deterrent. That's for
Right.
sure. We kind of mentioned that. Anyway, anything else there, Mr. JJ?
That's all I got, JC.
Well, I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's for sure. Well, guys, this wraps up another episode of Airgun Detectives. Don't forget, this is where we take the mystery out of the air gun. So until next time, I hope you and your families are doing well and you're getting plenty of shooting in. So take care and God bless.